Okay, I want to take the transmission out next. In order to do that, I have to disconnect the drive shaft. So now is a good time for me to document exactly how this drive shaft goes in so that I can replace it the same way it is now. If you look real close on the back of the yoke on the transmission, there's a kind of like a wagon wheel and then a 1. That's on the back of the yoke. Okay. If you come across to the drive shaft, the balance weight is on about a 12:30, 1 o'clock position relative to that end of the yoke that has that wagon wheel and the 1. And that that balance weight, near as I can measure it, appears to be about 1.25 inches. That's the front of the drive shaft. If we spin the drive shaft over 180 degrees to the side that doesn't have the balance weight on the drive shaft, and we look at the back of the yoke on the transmission there, it's very hard to read, but it is clearly not a 1 with a wagon wheel. Looks like maybe 1119 or something like that. At any rate, the one with that marking goes on the side of the drive shaft that does not have a balance weight on it. Now, moving to the back of the drive shaft, the only thing I could identify on the yoke in the differential here is that there is kind of a little raised square plate on this side of it. And if I turn that thing 180 degrees, I don't detect any raised square plate. It's all flat and smooth. So the smooth side and the balance weight are visible at the same time, with the balance weight in about the 10:30 position on the drive shaft. And so that I can tell the difference between the front and the back, I'm going to try to determine a size on this balance weight, and it appears that it is closer to 1 inch than 1.25 inches. So the back side has a balance weight of about 1 inch. And let me turn it back up. Front side, more like 1.25 inches. So that will tell us front to back on the drive shaft. And we've documented how the balance weight lines up to the yoke on the transmission, which has a 1 and a wagon wheel stamped into the back side of it. And on the back side, if I turn up the side of the yoke on the differential that has the flat plate right here, the balance weight on the drive shaft is not visible. If I turn up the side of the yoke that does not have the flat part on it, and I can see the balance weight at about the 10:30, 11 o'clock position, more or less. So now I know exactly how that was in the car to begin with, and I'll put it back in exactly the same way when I put it back in. Disconnecting the drive shaft is easy. There's a couple caps that go across the universal joint in the yoke, and all you have to do is take a 7/16 wrench and remove those. I'm going to put the transmission in park so that it doesn't turn on me. So you remove 2 caps, one on each side of the universal on the yoke, and you do that again on the back side near the differential, and your U-joint is able to come out. Now you will have to figure a way to wiggle this out. There is a little lip here, so you got to buy yourself a little room to pop that thing out of there. I'll come back after I've got them all loosened and see if I can demonstrate that. But for now, there's no point in me recording me loosening those bolts and removing those little caps. Okay, all of the bolts are off of the drive shaft caps, and the caps have been removed. And in order to get the drive shaft out, you need to just push the yoke from the transmission forward. That gives you room. I'm losing all my roller bearings from my cap because it didn't come out clean. Gonna make sure I capture all those so I can put them back in, because I believe these are good. I guess that's a good lesson for you. Now most cars, if you're trying to remove this from underneath, most cars do not have this crossover H-pipe. So all you would do is drop it down and pull it off the back again. And there you have it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these needle bearings, put them back into that, into the cup, and put the cup back on, and then I'm going to tape around that so that they don't fall off when I store it. If I've lost any of these needle bearings, I'll just have to buy a new U-joint and put it in, or at least put the cap. And I probably even have an extra cap sitting around from some other use that is brand new. Well, there you have it. You get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly with this video. That's something you don't want to have happen, but you can see one of those needle bearings is crosswise in the bottom there. And they all have to be upright around the edge. Let's see if we can shed some light on it. Tough to see. But they are stacked in there upright along the edge, and this is not anything it's worn or anything. That's the way they come new. And when you put the caps on to even a new even a new cap, a new U-joint. You have to make sure that you haven't knocked any down in the bottom like that, or you'll never get the thing to seat. So I'm going to spend probably 15 or 20 minutes here arranging those around the side so I can slip it back on that U-joint. So, and then I'll tape it on so it doesn't fall off while it's in storage if I move it. Okay, there are the bearings inside the cup. All those little needle bearings need to be arranged. Now comes the trick of trying to put them onto that U-joint without losing it and having to start all over. Success. I'll tape that on now so that it doesn't fall off again, and we're good to go.